Today, we are diving deep into a 9-digit number that you've probably heard of, but maybe don't fully understand. It plays a huge and often misunderstood role in the US economy. We're talking about the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, or as you probably know it, the ITIN. So let's just jump right in with a question. What do you do if you have a legal requirement to file US taxes, but you're not actually eligible for a social security number? Now, this isn't some abstract hypothetical question for a handful of people. Not at all. We're talking about millions of individuals. Think everyone from undocumented immigrants to foreign investors. They're all in this exact situation. They are legally required to report their income, but they don't have the standard number to do it. This created a massive gap. And you know the IRS, they needed a solution. And that solution was the ITIN. The best way to think of it is like a parallel track, right? It was built to run right alongside the Social Security system, but it was designed for one very specific purpose: tax compliance. So let's break down the official definition, because this is really important. An ITN is a 9-digit number, just like a Social Security number, but it is exclusively for tax processing. And here's the telltale sign, the dead giveaway. It always starts with the number 9. Now, that's not just some random detail. It's a fundamental design choice that flags it and separates it from an SSN in literally every government system. But here's the thing. To really get what an ITIN is, you have to understand its very specific purpose. And just as importantly, you have to understand its strict limitations. This, right here, is where almost all of the confusion and misinformation comes from. And you can see that core mechanism right here. Think of it like two different paths. On one path, you've got the SSN, which is directly tied to work authorization, and your earnings flow toward future Social Security benefits. But on the ITIN path, that connection is completely cut. Its only job is to funnel tax information straight to the IRS. It is a tool for compliance, full stop. So let's be absolutely crystal clear about this, because it's the most critical point. Having an ITN does not give you the right to work in the US. It does not make you eligible for Social Security benefits, and it has absolutely no impact on your immigration status. It is purely 100% an administrative tool for the IRS. But, and this is a big but, here's where the story gets way more complex and honestly a lot more interesting. Because while its official purpose is strictly limited to taxes, the ITIN has accidentally become a kind of key, a key for unlocking major parts of the US financial system. For starters, a lot of banks and credit unions will actually accept an ITN instead of an SSN to open things like checking and savings accounts. And that simple step is a game changer. It lets people securely save money and finally move away from a risky, purely cash-based life. And it doesn't stop there. An ITN can then be used to apply for credit cards and loans. Now, this is a really important cause and effect relationship to understand. By making regular, on-time payments, an ITN holder can start to build a US credit history, which is, a foundational step toward any kind of real financial stability. And that credit history leads directly to being able to apply for bigger loans. In fact, a lot of financial institutions have created specific ITN lending programs for things like auto loans and personal loans because they've recognized this is an underserved but often very reliable market. And you don't have to take my word for it. Financial institutions are seeing this opportunity. Just look at this quote from St. Cloud Financial Credit Union. It shows how some places are actively building entire programs around the ITIN, seeing it as a way to serve their communities and bring more people into the formal financial system. And the economic impact? It's huge. In 2019 alone, taxpayers filing with an ITIN made net contributions of $5.8 billion to the US economy. So this isn't just about individual finance, right? It's a major piece of the broader tax base. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the practical side of things. How does someone actually apply for and get one of these ITINs? The whole process really boils down to these four key steps. First, you complete a Form W-7. That's the official application. Then, and this is crucial, you have to attach a valid federal tax return to it. This proves you have a legitimate need to file taxes. After that, you provide documentation proving who you are and your foreign status, and then you send the whole package off to the IRS. And here it is. This is what the form actually looks like, the W-7. This is the official starting line. It asks for basic info, name, address, country of citizenship, but most importantly, it makes you state the reason you're applying, which for most folks is to attach it to their US tax return. Now, here's a detail that a lot of people miss, and it's super important for applicants to understand the timeline. You submit your application, and then you wait. It can take anywhere from 9 to 11 weeks just to get your ITIN issued. And maybe even more important, especially for people who have to submit original documents like a passport, it can take up to 14 weeks to get those precious documents back. Which brings us to our final and maybe our most important section. The ITIN program is not without its risks, and it comes with some very specific responsibilities for anyone who holds one. This is it. This is the number one question, the biggest concern for so many applicants, especially anyone who's undocumented. The fear is real. If I give my personal information to one branch of the US government, is it going to be shared with another, say immigration enforcement? Well, the answer is it's complicated. Under the law, specifically Internal Revenue Code Section 6103, the IRS is generally forbidden from sharing taxpayer info with other agencies. And those privacy protections are strong. But, and you knew there was a but, they are not absolute. There are specific narrow exceptions, like for a non tax criminal investigation, but even that requires a federal court order. So while the door isn't wide open, it's not hermetically sealed either. And beyond privacy, there are real financial risks that come from just not understanding the rules. Take this story about a woman named Rosa. She filed with her ITN and was incorrectly given the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is a benefit that ITN filers are not eligible for. The IRS eventually caught the mistake, and suddenly she found herself owing them over $5,000. It's a powerful lesson in how critical it is to know the tax code inside and out. So yeah, holding an ITIN basically comes with homework. You must stop using it the second you're issued a Social Security number. You have to renew it if you don't file taxes for 3 years in a row. And as Rosa's story shows, you absolutely have to understand which tax credits you can claim and which ones you can't. For anyone out there with questions, this number is an incredibly valuable resource. It's the direct IRS support line just for the ITIN program. If you lose your ITIN letter or you have a question about your application, this is the number you need to call. So in the end, what is the ITIN really? Is it just a simple number for processing taxes? Is it a key that unlocks financial access for people who would otherwise be shut out? Or is it a kind of bureaucratic tightrope walk, full of inherent risks? Well, the truth is, it's all of those things at once. It's a fascinating, complex, and for millions, an absolutely critical tool for navigating life in the United States.